Your weather guy here with an update on the 2024 fall forecast as well as the 2024-25 winter forecast. But first, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. Get future updates. We're going to have a lot of updates on the tropics coming up. I'm not going to talk about the tropics here, but if you want, I did a video yesterday on the tropics. My thoughts have not changed. I think there's a major threat coming next week. So take a look at that after this video. But in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on current pattern and how that's going to evolve going into October, and why I think we have some major changes going into October and into November and the rest of the winter. So this is the GEFS, or the GFS ensembles. So what we're seeing here is the same pattern that we've really been in September. There's been this real pesky ridge, a huge ridge in the eastern part of North America. That's led to above normal temperatures across a good part of the country. The west, you've had some bouts of cooler weather, and then certainly in the south, southeast up into the mid-Atlantic. But as a whole, September is going to be above normal for much of the country. And that ridge is a big reason why when you have that ridge, you can get some cooler shots. Or some below normal temperatures in parts of the country, but the above normal temperatures are going to really kind of rule the regime in this type of weather pattern. So as we go actually forward into the later part of September, you see much of that same. There's that ridge right there in eastern North America, and Canada is way above normal right now. So that's the other thing too. We just don't have a whole lot of cool air in Canada to infiltrate down south. Excuse me. Now, as we go into October, we do see some pretty big changes, right? So we don't have like a huge trough over the country bringing much below normal temperatures. That's still a pretty big change to see that huge ridge that has been very persistent break down. So I think this is the beginning really of our pattern change. Now, whenever you have a pattern that has been locked in for a while, it takes a little while to change it. And I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the pattern start to break down, but it's going to want to kind of fight to stay in place. And we see that as we go further into October, we have that ridge trying to build back in, but this is still much different in October. So I think October is going to be a little bit of a battle as we see that ridge break down. There's going to be a battle between, I think, this current regime and then the new regime that's going to set up as we go into November. And as we take a look at 2-meter temperatures here, 2-meter temperature anomalies. Let's go to now. We see, there we go, much above normal temperatures across much of the country. And then this is now the end of September. Look at that. Almost all of North America outside of Alaska is above normal. And now we're into early October. We see much of the same, but we do see as we go later into the first week of October, cooler temperatures starting to develop there in Canada. So that's a big change, at least in Western Canada. And as we go into the second week, we no longer see those well above normal temperatures in Eastern Canada. So now we have Canada cooling down. So that alone, once we have cooler air to our north, that makes us more susceptible to cooler air intrusions in the United States. So while I think November averages above normal and possibly much above normal in parts of the country, we are gonna see some cooler intrusions and maybe some early season cold snaps too, as we head especially into mid-October. Now as we head to the third week of October, we kind of see much of the same, right? Now there's kind of a battle going on. I think as we go into November, I think that the newer regime will win over. And why I think that, let's pop over to the sea surface temperatures. So there's our La Niña coming on in the Pacific. See those below normal temperatures there off the coast of South America, stretching back into the central Pacific. Now, what's interesting is when I was taking a look back at some previous years, I went way back, look the last 30 years, whenever you have a La Niña like this, so this isn't a strong La Niña, right? It's really a kind of a weak range, and I think it's probably going to stay there, maybe sneak into moderate range. Several months ago, it looked like we were going to be into a strong La Niña. That's no longer the case. But whenever you have this type of La Niña, the pattern in October almost always flips in November. And there's a couple of occasions where it didn't flip until December, but most of the time it flipped in November. So I think we're going to see above normal temperatures again in October, although October is going to be quite a bit different than September. But in November, I'm expecting to see some pretty major changes. So I'm going to show you a few years that I looked at. I'm not going to show you all of them. You can go back and look, and it's quite impressive how often that this happened. But the first one I'll show you is 95. So here's October of 95. We see those above normal temperatures, actually much above in the Northeast, all the way down in Florida. There's some below normal temperatures, especially in the deep South and then in the northern Rockies. But as we switch to November, look at that change. Look at all those below normal temperatures in the eastern part of the United States, and in the west you got pretty warm. Next one I'll show you is 2014. Much of the country, and I think this is probably going to be similar to what this October is going to look like. Much above normal for western part of the country. The eastern part you're above normal to near normal in some areas. And then in November of 2014, look at that change. That's as drastic as you can be from October to November of 2014. And the last one I'll show you is 17. So here's October of 2017. Again, much above normal temperatures for much of the country outside of parts of the Rockies there. And then in November, it flipped there. Not as drastic, but you can see that's still a pretty big pattern change to normal, to slightly below normal in the eastern part of the country. And a lot of times when these changes took place in November, they lasted through much of the winter. So I think this winter is starting to shape up to be at least, I think, the northern part of the country to possibly the East Coast being below normal. That's what I'm thinking right now. I think in the Southeast, you might end up above normal. There might be a southeast ridge. Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, maybe up into the southern mid-Atlantic. And there's going to be a battle zone, somewhere around there. And it's going to be interesting. That could be where our storm track sets up as well. But when we take a look at these three winters, so 95, 96, 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018, once you had that flip, this is what the rest of that winter looked like. This was December, January, February. You can see 2/3 of the country below normal. So that's a long, cold winter there. And in the western part of the United States, you're above normal. So look, really, really interesting stuff. We'll see how it works out. We'll see if the models really start to latch on to that pattern change as we go through October into November. But this is what I'm thinking now. But please hit that subscribe button, because as we go forward in the weeks and the months to come, gonna update this forecast as that data comes in. But for now, thanks for watching, and see you next time.